play those, so
Okay.
you're doing it for you. You good?
Right.
YouTube is on.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Please picture. Thank you.
Yep.
enter your PIN, followed by the pound sign. Thank you. After the tone, please state your name, followed by the pound sign.
Joe in the chapel.
Thank you. The conference will be allowed to continue after you disconnect.
Well,
You are the first participant to join the conference. Please stand by.
question of, I don't know if we can get it fixed or not, because we're not really for it. Well, we have discussed that. We have not made a decision.
Hey, Dick. How are you?
Damn. This little race stinks.
If that makes any sense. Yeah.
I loved all that paperwork. My first had a number on it? No. Okay. Okay. Then I'm next. All I say is the board's working to improve. And someone will tell me why I heard. I said, quit reading the ledger.
Hey, Mr. White, how you doing? Doing good. I really feel bad about how we look. You know, all along, I just did not text you. So I grew up document, wherever it was, where you lived. And that's why I kept on, thinking I had it. Had I done that? Well, I've done this a long time ago. All I know, that's all I know. Yeah, that's what I said. Everything was pulled over. That was one exception.
All right. Okay. All right. I saw Etta. Etta. Are you all set? Yeah, thanks. Thank you. It's almost, yeah, we can go ahead. We're going to go ahead and get started. It's about 1 minute to 1. Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. All right. We'll wait for a few more people, and then we'll go ahead and get started with prayer. Ed is going to lead us in prayer. All right. Etta, will you lead us in prayer?
Yes, let's bow our heads. O most kind and gracious and loving Heavenly Father, we come before your throne first with praise and thanksgiving. God, we come just offering up our adoration before you, thanking you for being the loving and caring, nurturing and protecting, providing God that we know you to be. We have but to look at our past victories to see that you've been faithful in our past, you've been faithful in our present, and because of who you are, you'll be faithful in our future. Help us to keep our eyes focused on your kingdom promises that are always yes and amen to your glory, for we know that everything that you do is good, very good and great. Thank you for this community that you've called of Florida Presbyterian Homes, God, a nurturing community where we can come and serve one another in Christian fellowship. God, we just bless you for the provisions here. Be with us in all of our conversations. Be with us in all of our deliberations. Father God, be with us as we encounter one another in our walks of life. Let us share the love that you poured out for us when you sent us your only begotten Son, that we might have an opportunity to experience everlasting life with you. Thank you for a faith-based community where we can come and just grow in love and fellowship with one another. Bless our leaders, bless our residents, our staff, our family members, those who are in need of an embrace from you today. God, I ask that you would wrap your arms around them. Those who are in need of a healing, I ask that you would pour out your healing virtues. Those in need of comfort and those in need of peace, those in need of provision, do what only you can do, and that is to be God. We bless you and we praise you. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you, Etta. So today we have our normally monthly scheduled resident chat. It is not an OIR chat. The agenda for today will be life enrichment programming, assisted living. Then Etta will talk about spiritual life programming, focusing on our Lenten schedule as we prepare for Easter. And then Siobhan, our administrator for Porter McGrath, will talk about Porter McGrath initiatives that are undergoing today and ongoing forward. Then I'll give the executive director report. I also want to note that we have Dick, who is a resident board member, and Scott, who is a board member as well, here today. Thank you for being here. And in the executive director report, I'll go through our occupancy and residential living and independent living. I'll cover a number of capital budget projects that will be underway for this year. I'll talk about the sidewalk and roadwork update. And then I'm going to talk about an initiative that the City of Lakeland has undertaken through the organization called Age Friendly Lakeland, which is the Lakeland Senior Center. And then I'll cover an update on the process that we're undertaking as we seek an affiliation sponsorship change here. So with that, we will go ahead. As you notice, Tasha is not here, and so she has taken the day off, and she sent me a very well-organized script for me to go off of. So thank you, Tasha, for doing that. So first, I'm going to cover life enrichment. March is Nutrition and Hydration Month. So the life enrichment team and dining will be setting up hydration stations on the campus on March 15th with infused water. And I understand infused water is a good thing. I guess it means that it's flavored with different fruits from what I understand. So look forward to that. And then on the 13th, in the 4-bunker lobby at 3:30 p.m., we'll be doing fruit smoothies for the residents. So any resident that would like to participate and receive a fruit smoothie, please come to the 4-bunker lobby at 3:30 on the 13th of March. And as you know, St. Patrick's Day is March 17th, and I know Dean is working on green things that'll be, and hopefully tasty things, not just green things, to be prepared for our residents to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. We have the Employee Appreciation Picnic on the last day of this month in March, and that is in Drain Park. That's March 31st in Drain Park. Residents that are interested in attending that, please let Thelma, our hostess, know by the 22nd of March. Please RSVP if you plan on attending and joining us for the barbecue on the 22nd of March. Samanda is seeking suggestions for outings. So if any of you have any ideas on things you would like to do or places you would like to go and see, please let Samanda know as soon as possible. Recently, they had a group that went out to Bonnet Springs Park, and they loved it. They had a really good time from the residents who attended. I think there were about 8 residents who attended. So that is something that if you feel like we should be going to that more regularly and more people are interested in going to Bonnet Springs Park, please let Samanda know. Any questions on life enrichment at this time? Larry? The time on the 22nd in Drain Park, I believe it starts at 11:30. I'm sorry. Pardon? The 31st of March, but the time that it actually starts is, we'll get that to you. I'm not sure. I thought it was 11:30, but please call. Thelma will know when you make your reservation. Thelma will be able to tell you specifically. Okay. The date for that, for the reservation is the 22nd, but the date is the 31st. The Employee Appreciation Picnic is the 31st of March, but you need to make a reservation with Thelma by the 22nd, by no later than March 22nd. Any other questions on life enrichment? Okay. Oh, please.
Will there be non-meat selections for those that are observing avoidance of meat during Lent?
You know, I will have to ask the dining team, and I'll ask Tasha when she gets back. Janine, could you make a note of that? We'll check to see. Okay, good question. Thank you. The question was, will there be non-meat options at the Employee Appreciation Picnic for those who are fasting from meat during this period? Okay. All set? Okay. Assisted living update. We have 40 units of the 47 units occupied at this time. That's about 85%. The national average is 88%. Right now for assisted living, the average is about 88%. So we're pretty close to what the national average is experiencing. They have 7 units available. They have 1 move-in scheduled in mid-March to the assisted living. Any questions on assisted living at this point? Okay. All right. All right. I'm going to turn it over to Etta, and Etta is going to share where we're at in programming for our Spiritual Life program. Welcome back again.
I didn't realize I was up so soon.
Yeah.
Well, for our spiritual life, we celebrated the beginning of our Passover, our Lent season. We're moving along with that. And I know many of you are doing different things for Lent. Can I offer the suggestion that if you're going to fast away from anything, let's fast away from any negative behavior, anything that's toxic for our bodies, any toxic behaviors, toxic conversations, all that stuff. Get it out of our system. And let's move forward and remember that, again, we're in God's hands, and we know that we're safe in His hands. So let's remember that as we're going through Lent. I haven't given you a specific schedule. I know some of you are observing no meat Fridays. There are others who are moved meat from their schedule altogether. But let's just make sure that we're fasting away from those things that have a negative effect, not only on our bodies physically, but also on our bodies spiritually. March 3rd, which is this Friday, is going to be the World Day of Prayer. And the theme this year is I Heard About Your Faith. It actually is focusing on the country of Taiwan, and it's taken from the scripture in Ephesians, where Paul is writing to the Ephesians and reminding them that he's heard about their faith, and he's commending them for keeping their faith and their hope in God. And so as we move along and we celebrate that day, take a time out to just whisper in your devotion, in your meditation, or in your prayers, the hope and the faith of God's promises. We know they are yes and amen for his glory. Now, April's going to kick off and move pretty quickly, and I'll just give you a couple updates, but they will be in your Hunter Herald and also in your Daily Scoop and your Now Read This. Palm Sunday will be the 2nd, April 2nd, and all of our services on Sunday will continue to be at 10 here in the chapel. We will celebrate Maundy Thursday, which will be April the 6th in the chapel, and we will do communion on that day. I've asked that there be no activities in the chapel for April the 7th in honor of Good Friday observance. So there will not be a movie. Thank you so much to the movie committee for agreeing to that. But the chapel will be darkened and it will be decorated so that we can honor that. If you want to come in and spend some time in prayer and meditation, you're welcome to do that. But I would ask that we would do it in silence. I'll have signs on the door. I want to be respectful of that day and those who are honoring and celebrating the remembrance of what that day means for us. Easter will be on the 9th. And if you want to wear your Easter bonnets and bring your Easter basket, you're welcome to do that on that day as well. Get your new Easter dresses. And for guys, you know, growing up, if you didn't get a suit any other time of the year, you usually got it for Easter. So come on out and celebrate that with us, or make sure that if you don't come here, I do encourage you, if you're connected to your local church, especially if you work in your local church, continue to do that. Your church depends on your fellowship and your attendance. So I'm not trying to recruit you from there to here unless you have felt the move from God to say, you know, it's time to attend on community. But those who attend in community, I'm grateful for you. But if you are an active member in your church, please hear me say that your church needs your service as long as you're able to provide it. And know that I'm in no way trying to compete with that. So keep that in mind. We're going to do something that we haven't done since Pastor Barbara left, actually. She purchased a labyrinth for our chapel, and we haven't used it in quite a while. On the dates of April 18th and 19th, the chapel will be reserved for those 2 days that we will have the labyrinth in the chapel, and you'll get more instructions in your Hunter Herald as to the purpose and use for that. And I'll be here both days, spending the entire day in the chapel to assist those who want to come for meditation, those who want to come for prayer, or those who are coming to just do some type of release and revival through walking the labyrinth. And anyone can do it, even those that require using some type of assistance for walking, you still are able, and I will be here to help you with that. But I think that would be great, especially with all that we're facing in the days ahead. I think it will be wonderful for us to get an opportunity to kind of leave some things behind. You know, there's some things we can't change, and I know we're busy trying to change them. There's some things we can change, and we've kind of pushed it to the back of the plate. But we need to make sure that things we can change, we do something positive to change it. The things we can't change, let's learn to just leave it into the hands of those who can change it. And we know that's our Savior, Jesus Christ. So we're going to walk through that labyrinth. And again, you can use it for meditation. You can use it for prayer. You can use it to center your focus, to kind of leave some things behind. And my prayer is that when you leave from those 2 days, that you will feel a release, that you will feel that the stress has been minimized, and that you'll go forward with a positive outlook that we've always had for our community and for our campus. Any questions for me? You're a great audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Etta. I'd like to call Siobhan, our administrator for Porter McGrath, up, and Siobhan's going to give an update on occupancy and some of the strategic initiatives that are going on through Porter McGrath. Siobhan?
Good afternoon. So occupancy today in our healthcare center is 54. We're right on budget. And we probably have 2 or 3 admissions coming in today. So we are continuing to stay right around budget or a little bit higher than budget, which is really good. We are continuing to work with Lakeland Regional Health, and we have been talking for the past it's been several months, about the initiatives that we are trying to work with and partner with Lakeland Regional Health. And so this month, actually not this month, actually last month, yesterday, we had a group from Banish come out. Does everyone know who Banish is? It's Lakeland Regional Health's rehab. It's more intensive therapy than just a normal rehab like ours or another nursing home rehab. It is very intensive. So if someone goes there, they have to be able to tolerate that level of rehab and therapy. So we had the group out yesterday to tour and had lunch with them, had a very positive visit. They invited us to come see their facility, which we will be doing hopefully in the coming weeks. You want me to hang it up?
Yeah, go right ahead. Thanks.
So,
We're going out to Banish.
yes, we'll be going out to Banish in the coming weeks. And we have been talking to them, we talked to them yesterday, and we have been talking to them in the past about how Porter McGrath can help Banish. And you might say, well, how is that? We're both rehab centers, right? Well, as I said before, Banish has an extensive level of rehab. So sometimes people coming out of the hospital aren't able to tolerate that level. So we have been in talks with them to have maybe the patient come here first to have our therapy and then transfer them to Banish when they get stronger and are able to tolerate that level of therapy. And then on the back end, we have talked also about after they finish at Banish and they no longer meet the criteria for Banish, but they need more therapy, they would then come to us and we would give them more therapy to get them back to their prior level. So it was a very good conversation, and as we continue to partner with Lakeland Regional, I think that was a very positive meeting, and we just continue to work on our partnerships. That's the most important thing, really, in a rehab center and in a community like this, to have outside community partnerships. And Lakeland Regional is one of probably the most important for PMG at this point. Do you know we get about 95% of our referrals for Porter McGrath at Lakeland Regional? That's where they come from. So it is very important to have that kind of partnership. So we continue to move on with that. Is there any questions for me? Okay, so the question was, is there any plans or any way that Banish would come in and replace our physical therapy? Eventually. That is not in the plan at this point.
No
And
discussion.
yeah, there's been absolutely no discussion on that. Yes.
I had a discussion with another resident recently, and we disagreed over whether the staff at the rehabilitation center are FPH employees or if that's operated by a contractor. Which is the case?
So if you're talking about therapy, therapy is contracted. They are not actually an employee. They're a contracted service, but they act as if they are our employees. The only difference is they get paid from their company, but we have a very strong relationship with the therapy company that we use, and we meet monthly and talk about outcomes and, you know, all of that is so important for our rehab, because that's what really rehab is. It's how our outcomes, how we're progressing and producing those outcomes where we want to send people back home or back to their, you know, prior level of living. But the staff, the CNAs and nurses are ours. Okay. Anything else? Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks, Siobhan. The other thing I would add to that is we're also working with an organization called FAHA that negotiates contracts with Medicare Advantage companies. And so when we get referrals, the number one reason why we cannot accept a referral is because we don't have that Medicare Advantage contract. So when we say that to the person or we say that to the discharge planner and they share that with the individual who's been referred to us, the individual says, well, I'll find some place that does accept my benefit. And that is not us saying we don't want that provider. That's the provider determining who they want to contract with. And we talked about it in our last meeting, and we recently had 2 providers that listed us as preferred providers in Polk County. And one said we were their #1 referral organization. So what Bonnie shared is spot on. We have a really good therapy program and a really good therapy team. And the challenge for us with these other insurance companies is our size. They tend to like large organizations because it makes their jobs easier. They only have to, if they have a 150-bed, 200-bed skilled care they're contracting with, as opposed to many, many, many smaller providers, it's easier for them to contact that 1 or 2 large facilities than 5 or 6 small facilities. So it's really from their perspective, from a business perspective, our scale works against us a little bit. It's not an issue of quality. They all recognize the quality, but the issue is the scale with getting those contracts. But I know we're working on 3 right now, and this seems to take forever, and it's a constant back and forth. So hopefully we'll get more provider contracts. When we do, we'll let you know, so you are aware of who is in our provider contract pool and who isn't. You may recall back in September of last year, in October, we sent out a list of who are the providers that are accepted within Porter McGrath, and we sent out a document to give you an idea of the context for that discussion. But that's something we're constantly working on, because that's the #1 reason why we can't accept somebody. I would also share that our referrals have gone up since Siobhan has initiated the conversations. Since we've been talking with the hospital, the number of referrals. There was a period where we were getting referrals that were not appropriate for us. We're a little different than a standalone skilled care rehab, and what makes us different is we have long-term relationships with residents who've lived on our campus for years. And so bringing somebody from the outside, oh, I'm sorry, thanks, Judy. I start get going, I forget. But to bring somebody from the outside into Porter McGrath that has behavioral issues or has issues that are substance abuse related, and to bring them into the community and have them wreak havoc within our skilled care, we don't do that. So we turn away people from the outside who have significant issues that would cause problems for our residents and our staff. So we are selective in that way because we don't want to put that risk or burden onto the people that live in Porter McGrath or the people that work in Porter McGrath. So that gives you kind of an idea of, you know, how we build the occupancy up. And that's something that Siobhan and her team have done a very good job. I appreciate that. Any other questions on Life and Rich or on Porter McGrath? Okay. If not, I'm going to move forward. The executive director update. Time for glasses. The residential living, we actually have 6 houses right now that are on the market, which for us is a lot. We normally have 2 to 3 houses that are on the market. I talked with Cher today. I got feedback from Cher, and she was saying that of the 6, there are 3 that are close to contract. So that's a good thing. She's saying, don't worry, you know, we're getting them under contract. It just takes a little bit of time. But I know Cher is hustling. I know she's contacting everybody on our lead list, and she's doing tours. Susan's doing tours, and she's not very concerned about the houses. The apartments, on the other hand, we still are at 14 available apartments. The rental product, even though a person doesn't have to pay an entry fee and pays a monthly fee that is basically just for the rent of that apartment, we're still not getting any traction in that. That's been marketed through primarily digital and social media. So I talked with Tasha earlier this week and said, obviously the digital and social media is not having an impact. We need to come up with another way to market the apartments, because if it's a rental, the pricing shouldn't be the issue. So that's something that she's going to schedule a meeting with Varsity, who is our consultant on marketing, and come up with a plan to get those apartments and start moving on that. I know one of the things that Cher and Tasha and Varsity have put together is that they're going to be doing events. And some of you have seen that they're going to be doing a fashion show, and then they have I think a dinner program, these events, and they're going to use direct mail to do targeted direct mail advertising to invite people to those events that are in that range that would be more interested in an apartment product. Again, we don't need to promote the houses a whole lot because they tend to promote themselves, but we do need to promote the apartments because that's where we've been struggling historically and consistently. So those are the where we're at with occupancy for RL and the independent living apartments. Any questions on that, or any thoughts or comments or questions on that? All right. Key capital budget. Ooh, I'm sorry, Lynn. Yeah. I think the studio rental is about, I want to say it's about $1,200, about $1,300. But there's no entry fee on that. And that's basically just for the use of the apartment. Yeah. Yeah. If you go out into, if you look up like any real estate Google search or something, you'll see that rental has gone up significantly in Lakeland. And to me, when I talked with Tasha, I said, yeah, we know some of the shortcomings of the apartments, our size, layout, the exterior entrance, some of the challenges for marketing buildings that were built in the 60s and the 80s. What we need to focus on are the positives. You know, they're getting access to this whole community. They're getting access to life enrichment programming. they won't get elsewhere. They're getting access to resident-driven programming. They won't get elsewhere. They're getting access to a chaplain and a pastoral care program, spiritual life program. They won't get elsewhere. So we need to focus more on the positives, and that differentiates us from somebody going to a standalone independent living apartment building where they don't have access to all of these programs and services. That's what we need to focus. They aren't, I don't think they're, Tasha and I talked about this. I think we could do better, Lynn. I think we can do better. We're doing, again, social media and digital, and I don't think that approach is obviously not working. I think in the direct mail, we can take a printed piece and highlight, what differentiates us from a standalone independent living apartment building, and we can list some of those things and promote some of those things more effectively than you can through digital and social media. Please, Larry. So the question or the statement in question is, when you look at the Lakelander and Lakeland Now and some of the print media that's out there, we're not in that. In our field, that media for return on investment is really low. And so that's why historically everywhere I've been has done very limited print advertising because of the expense of it and because the return on the investment's really low. But I have said to both Varsity and Tasha, we need to make sure we know what works in Lakeland. That may be historically the answer nationwide, but we need to dig deeper and determine it might be different here. And so we need to look at print media and need to look at these things without just assuming that it's not going to work. But I could tell you when I worked in Illinois, when I worked in New Hampshire, in Wisconsin, every consultant said the best advertising, number one, is word of mouth from the residents. That's the number one. And when you have, positive residents that are telling people about the community, that is the most positive marketing that we could get. It's the reverse if people are out in the community saying, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that. So it has a reverse impact, which ultimately impacts everybody here in the room. So positive out in the market, that's the number one thing. Number two is through the direct mail. That's what all the studies in our field have said. Direct mail targeted to age and income qualified is the best approach. And you take your primary market area, which is basically looking at what are the zip codes you all came from, and creating a map based on those zip codes and saying, okay, this is where our people are coming from. That's our primary market area. Yeah, you may get somebody who comes from Idaho, you may get somebody who comes from Illinois, but the majority usually come from within about a 10 to 12 mile radius. So that is how you define the PMA. So direct mail was the number two after word of mouth. And then number three has been digital and the digital advertising and social media. And then comes, I think it's then comes print, or no, then comes events, where you're throwing events and bringing people onto the campus, which we're going to start doing again. And then comes the print, TV, and then radios last. When I was in Wisconsin, we had a situation where the NPR station, I got to know the person that was the executive manager at NPR out of Madison, Wisconsin, and we talked about our demographics, and he said, we're your sweet spot. Look at what you're telling me. Look at who listens to NPR in Madison, Wisconsin. And we started to do, and you'll hear on NPR here, you'll hear about Oak-Hammock, which is affiliated with the, I think, University of Florida. I think it's University of Florida or Florida State, I can't remember. Pardon? Is it University of Florida? So you'll hear that on NPR, and we did a blurb on NPR, and it was great. It really made a difference. So I'm asking Varsity and Tasha to look at things with a little bit more open and look at and see if print media or other options are worth giving it a try. Good statement, good question. Any other thoughts on that, on occupancy at this point? Okay, all right. So let's see. Oh, key capital budget projects. All right. So when we work on the capital budget, we have a document. You may remember that last year we brought in an organization called Arch, and they had engineers going around the campus, looking at houses, looking at our buildings, and testing our boilers, testing our HVAC systems, looking at our electrical systems. They put together a document that outlines the time frames for when we're going to need to replace roofs, when we're going to need to replace electrical systems, boilers, HVAC systems. So we use that document, plus we have the experience that Rick has, Jono has, and our team has to identify what are the pieces of physical plant equipment that we're going to need to either replace or renovate or refurbish. So from that, that's what drives the capital budget. And we usually, we placehold about $1.2 million a year towards capital for a 48-acre campus with some buildings that were built in 1921, you know, up through the building that Porter McGrath is as the most recent building. The addition there. So that gives you an idea kind of how the capital budget is developed. Then we work with, we see requests from residents. We ask employee managers Rick?
And the state, what they require.
That's right, thank you. And what the regulatory requirements are from the state. So we take all that into account and we put together a capital budget. The capital budget, a lot of what I'm going to talk about is exactly what Rick was alluding to. This year, in this year's budget, we have boiler CO detection and shutdown. That is a requirement from the state that we have to do, and it's about $27,000. We also have the residential elevators. We've got 6 elevators, and we're going to spend about $100,000 on getting the mechanicals upgraded on those elevators. A lot of these elevators that we have on campus are pretty old. So that's something that actually the state had come out with for our industry, saying that this is the new technology that you need to have in place in each of your elevators by the end of this year. So we have 6 elevators that we're in the process of getting the key mechanical systems related to what the state requires upgrades. Bonnie, did you have a question? Oh, okay. Is there anything else, Rick, you want to add on the elevators? I know we have one that's going to be, we're waiting for a part, that's the chapel.
Chapel elevator should be fixed by the end of, beginning of next week.
That's
That
our
chapel
goal.
elevator will be put, and that was not a requirement. That is the pump motor that went bad, and we had to replace the pump motor and the hydraulic fluid. And then we have several roofs in Terrace Gardens. I think I have 4 roofs in Terrace Gardens that have to be replaced, and then 4 Bunker Manor, a building in MacArthur Center I'm going to have fixed also.
Yeah, so roofs, elevators. We have IT switches. We have in our technology is fairly dated. We've done some upgrades over the past 3 years on staff technology. trying to get things addressed here in the chapel, trying to get things addressed within our work environment for all of our areas. One of the things that we are replacing are old switches, and I'm the least technological person to talk about this, but maybe when Tasha's here, she can do a lot more detail on it. But basically, how I understand the switches is we have multiple servers, we have dozens of workstations. They feed in through these switches, the switches then send them into the different servers. And so that's as good as you're going to get from me on that topic. But if the switches are bad, what that does is sometimes it shuts down a workstation. And until the switch gets fixed, you're basically stuck and can't get into a different server until the switches are fixed. And we're having a lot of issues and challenges. Even this week, we've had issues and challenges with that. So replacing the switches, I want to say for this year, let's see, where am I at here? About $80,000 to replace the switches. So these things in total, we're budgeting about $1.2 million. Some of the things that came in recently were mag locks. On assisted living, on the first floor of assisted living, we're installing mag locks. And that was something for security and looking at it and saying we have to make sure the access and egress, we have a better system, especially in the first floor of assisted living, where we're having a number of people that have cognitive challenges. And so we're putting in mag locks in the assisted living. In Porter McGrath, we've added mag locks, but one of the things that came up from a security position that you guys, we talked about in the last chat was the AL Porter McGrath entranceway. So putting a new lock system for after hours when Ann leaves and security's not at the desk, to be able to lock that door system down and have it set up where nobody can just walk out and leave the door open, but have it set up where they could use the technology with security to get in and out. One of the challenges we were having was staff going out on break, flipping the switch, the door would flip open, and then when they came back in, they left it. They didn't go back and flip the switch. That door shouldn't be open at night. It should be able to egress, though. If there was a fire, you'd be able to egress out of that door, but nobody should be able to flip a switch, go out, and then leave it open. So that system's being replaced. The 4-bunker front door, Rick is getting an estimate looking at the front door and the back door to get an estimate to see which would be the better one to put up a similar system in 4-bunker. So that way people couldn't get in and out unless they had a code to get in and out, which obviously we would give the residents the code to be able to get in and out, or it would be the same type of a phone system where they could call and say, hey, I need to get into my 4-bunker to get to my apartment. So those are the things we're getting pricing on that will be put into the budget here. We're also getting estimates on the generator for MacArthur. Where am I looking now? Oh, you're going to wire it? Wasn't it something you're going to do instead of the generator? What was it?
We have a propane generator. What I did is I purchased 4 extra tanks, and what we're going to do is look into backfeed, and I'm going to have an electrician come in and put a transfer switch. So we have the generator. We just need the price for the transfer switch to just feed power to the bistro, to some common area lighting, and possibly, it depends on the amps drawn, how much if we could put an air conditioner on there or not. But I really don't think so, but at least we'll have the bistro, the lighting, and possibly the stove and the microwave and a coffee pot going.
Let's see. Thanks, Rick. Any questions on the capital budget? Okay. All right. Okay. Let's see here. All right. right, Lake Hunter Drive, when the city let Rick know that they would begin working on this on the 23rd of last month, they had suggested it would be 3 months to complete. They've had some delays recently with getting a pipe. That's why sometimes you don't see them out there. I think right now, I don't think they're out there working. They're kind of on hold until they can get this pipe in. So we're looking at least another 2.5 months before that gets completed. Residents shared with me earlier today about seeking to get signage about slow, drive slowly, because when people are coming around the turn from Lake Hunter and getting to the barrier and making that right-hand turn up Highland, it's a really tight turn and people are speeding through, thinking they need to make up time. So I'll reach out to the city, and Rick, if you think of who would be the best person, but we'll reach
We
out
have a
to the
contact.
city.
I'll have Lisa reach out to him also.
Thank you. Yeah, so we can get some signage out there. But timing-wise, it's going to be a while, before that gets completed. Linda?
I'm glad you mentioned the signage. Is there signage that could be there all the time? I see
Yeah.
people crossing at the end here and having cars zooming. I mean, it's been closed sometimes. They need
Yeah.
to be aware there's people who are crossing with mobility issues or something like that. It's really scary crossing right at that point.
Yep, what Linda is sharing is that could we have permanent signage around the speed that to minimize people speeding through Lake Hunter, through that area. That's something we can talk about with the city as well. I know the speed bump helps a little bit, but I see people flying, coming around the corner until they get to the speed bump. So it's something we need to.
One of the crossing areas, I see a lot of people with walkers or
Yeah,
chairs is right at the corner.
yeah.
It's actually a crosswalk,
Mm-hmm.
but coming down around.
Towards the dining room.
At the very end.
Yeah. Where that is by the dining room across that, okay. The other thing I would say is email me those types of concerns and I could collect them and forward them to the appropriate person at the city. That helps, that helps. And I gotta say, our city's been very accessible and super helpful in a lot of different things here. And we're really fortunate to have a good relationship with the city. So yeah, please, let me know and we'll follow up on that. Okay, anything? All right. Lakeland Senior Center. There's an organization called Age Friendly Lakeland. It was developed by AARP, and AARP invited municipalities all across the country to participate in the Age Friendly program. And primarily what the driving force behind Age Friendly is to make communities more livable for older adults, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's street crossing, the timing of street lights and things, all those types of aspects to make a community more livable for older adults. So we're very fortunate here in Lakeland. We have it's part of the Lakeland Vision organization, which is a part of the city. And it's a very active and engaged group. I've been on the steering committee for Age Friendly Lakeland, I think since my second year here. One of the things the board had asked of me was to become involved in the community, to get more involved in Rotary and different things like that. So I joined Age Friendly Lakeland. The leadership of Age Friendly Lakeland asked me to facilitate the development of a senior center here in Lakeland. I asked the board for their approval to go ahead and do that, and the board thankfully said, please go ahead. That is part of our mission, is to be a good neighbor and a good member of the community. And so Age Friendly Lakeland asked me to facilitate this effort. And so we're at the stage in the effort where we have a steering committee right now that includes leadership from the hospital, leadership from Senior Connections, from the Rath Center, from Visti, from different hospice and home care providers, from SAGE and the Elder Care Guide leadership from that group. It's a very solid Catholic Charities. I mean, we've got a very good steering committee. There's a city commissioner, there's a city staff person. So the steering committee's the one that is kind of being the strategic leaders for this effort. We have a programs and services committee, and in the process we've stated we don't want to focus on let's go find a building. We want to focus on form follows function. That's a Daniel Burnham, Chicago architect philosophy. First define what is needed and what is wanted, instead of saying let's go find a building. So that's where we're at right now. We're in the form follows function, and we are very grateful to one of our residents, who I won't embarrass, who's helped us get this survey together and to put it into a technology. Our program and services committee created the survey. It's now available for older adults to participate in the survey. I think as of last week, we had over 280 responses to the survey. We're hoping that every older adult, we have representation from older adults from every neighborhood within Lakeland. We're working with area churches, we're working with the League of Women's Voters, we're working with multiple organizations to get that survey out and get the feedback from older adults as to what would they like to see in a senior center, and would they want to use a senior center, and how far would they be willing to drive to go to a senior center. So that survey is out and available. I haven't promoted it big here because a lot of pretty much all of the programs and services we have. So for a lot of our residents, they're going to go, we have that, we have that, we have that, we don't need it, we don't need it. So I don't want to jade the survey with 300 residents that are getting all those services because they live here. So our focus is more out in the broader community, people who aren't part of communities like ours that are providing those services. We hope to have enough representation from the neighborhoods by the end of March, and then that'll go to the Programs and Services Committee, and they'll put together a model of what types of programs and services would be in the senior center, and then we'll work with a finance group to create a business plan. How would the operating funding work? How would the construction development funding, where would that come from? And then we'll present that to the city, to the county, and see if we can get any type of support there. And once we have that, then we'll start looking at buildings and facilities and locations. But it's something that I've been involved in, since I started in this field. I was fortunate enough to learn about senior centers and participate, from a peripheral way with a colleague who was leading the effort to develop a senior center that was very comprehensive. A lot of people think of a senior center and they think it's a room in a building, and somebody walks in at 8 a.m., flips the switch, unlocks the door, well, probably unlocks the door first, then flips the switch, and then it's open till 5, and then the person comes back at 5, turns out the lights, and flips the switch. A really good senior center can be the single source for older adults as a resource to guide them through the maze of healthcare, through the maze of programming and services, that they just don't have a single source to go to get help and get information. It could also be a place for entertainment, education. I was checking in on one senior center that had the virtual golf, and so you could play Pebble Beach, I mean, it was all, so it's more than just a room. Some of the facilities that I've seen have where the hospital runs a geriatric clinic out of the facility and does wellness assessments and care planning out of a facility like that. There's just so many different things that could be provided in a very good, high-quality senior center. So I'm hoping that by fall, we'll be able to present that to the city and to the county, and then they'll hopefully put together through Age Friendly Lakeland a group to take it through implementation. So questions or comments or thoughts about a senior center? Okay. Before I get into the affiliation, I want to thank David, who is here with us, and he is almost completed with the mural in assisted living. And on Sunday, March 12th, there'll be a reception to come down and see the mural and enjoy the mural, share it with others, and also have some refreshments. And I think the schedule has gone out, I believe, already in the scoop. I believe there's a 3:30 for a group of residents, and then there's a 5 o'clock for a different group of the RL residents plus the broader community to come in. There was a wonderful article in the Ledger, and that speaks volumes to David hasn't just done this as an artist. He's brought his heart. There's situations I don't want to embarrass him with, but how he's connected with some of the residents on that first floor, he's gone above and beyond, and I think he's really, I think people have appreciated him not only for his expertise as an artist, but for him as a man and for what he's done for them and continues to do for them. Thank you. So with that, thank you again, David. I want to update on the affiliate sponsorship initiative. You may recall in the last meeting, I said there will be a stage that we reach where we'll be within what is called a due diligence confidentiality period, and we won't be able to share specific details. We're in that period, so I can speak to process, but I can't speak to details within that process. The reason for that is we don't want to put the deal at risk. That's the reason. And the priority is getting this opportunity achieved. That's the priority for the entire organization. And I think, sometimes people look at change and they just automatically assume change is negative. And I would share with you that this change is very positive. This isn't something where I go home at night and go, I wish I'd have done this, I wish we'd have done that, I wish we didn't have to do that. My job when I was hired is to strengthen this organization in every way, shape, and form. That's what I was brought in to do. The role of the board, having fiduciary responsibility, is to make sure that the organization is meeting the needs of present and future residents. And that's what they're doing. And this is an outgrowth of that effort. And to me, it's always a positive. I understand when you don't have all the information, the lack of information always brings concern. It's just the nature of humanity, and I'm as guilty of that as anybody. But in the process and knowing what I know this is the right thing. And I know that this will strengthen our organization. From a process standpoint, we are in that stage where you can ask me the question of who are we talking to, I can't speak to that at all. I can't speak to what information are they asking us for, and what can we share, I can't speak to that. I can share, that we're in that zone right now where we can't blow confidentiality and put the deal at risk. So that's where we're at. Scott, I don't know if you have anything you would like to add, or Dick, if there's anything you would like to add. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to say that, kind of repeat what Joe has said, that everything that we're doing as a board of directors is for your best interest. A lot of you know that I have been involved with the Florida Princeton Homes for a long time, which makes me part of the family, kind of an outside family, maybe an in-law. But I don't want to be treated like an in-law, and I don't treat y'all as in-laws either, your family. And we've got a group on the board that is very caring and has been in much prayer for everything. And there's always a lot of factors that you have to take in consideration. You know, these are hard decisions. We want to do the right thing. And we know the right thing to do is to ask our Maker to give us wisdom and guidance, and we have done that repeatedly. And we're not going to do anything that harms you. We're looking out for everyone's best interest. The things that Joe has mentioned in terms of the unknown, yes. But at this point, you have to respect what we're sharing with you and be patient, be in prayer. Don't spread rumors that you don't know whether it's true or not. At least I would ask you not to do that, okay? At the proper time, information will be shared. And the reason there's confidentiality is because parties don't want information to be released that could create a problem. And then you start over. So I thank you for your patience. Again, I request your prayers. And we're going to work through this together. There is a process. We are following that process. We've got legal counsel, outside legal counsel. We've got Ziegler, who is advising us. And this is the way they have advised us. So we're going with experience on people that have done this before. Thank you.
Landis?
You said the deal was not a deal. Is that correct?
There's only one deal that eventually will happen, right? Yeah.
There is one being approached at this point.
There's discussions with sponsors, possible sponsors. No, we've started a due diligence phase.
So there's a contract been signed?
That's yeah, that I'm not going to get into the detail of what's been signed and what hasn't been signed, but there's not a final on this at this point. I can share that. Nothing's been finalized. Okay. Please. I can't. Yeah, the question is, can I be more specific on a timeline? And I can't. I can't. Thanks, Judy. I'm sorry. I know it's kind of awkward to be saying any other questions, and it's kind of limited. Dick?
I want to add my 2 cents.
Okay.
3 cents?
Yeah. Make it 4.
As a resident, I simply want to assure all of you that this board is taking everything into consideration. They're doing it prayerfully, and it's all for our best interests. Okay? And I mean that in a very positive way. Period. You're welcome.
You are succinct. Debbie?
I
Yeah.
got from Scott. Could you share with us name of a previous client of Ziegler?
No, absolutely not.
Then how do we know they've done it?
Because the board and we did the process to determine what would be the best organization to lead this effort.
You went and looked at that final outcome?
Yeah.
All right. Because I know when I try and get feedback on a plumber and somebody's already used them, I want to know what happened. So you know what happened.
Okay. Are there other topics or questions on other topics? Debbie?
During this time period of due diligence, will anything more move on those 5 rooms that are over near the dining room that used to be the executive offices? Or
Yeah.
I remember once upon a time there was thought about trying to
Hospice.
go back and changing the status of those rooms so they could maybe be used as guest rooms instead, so that
Yeah.
maybe the current guest rooms could become housing.
We're not going to do any major change at this point in time. And, yep, at this point in time. Yep. Any other questions? I'm sorry. Other topics maybe? Bruce? No, sir. In AL, they're part of the AL 47. So those 5 are part of the AL 47, and we're not doing any additional renovations or anything in those 5. So the IL apartments are, those 5 are different. Those are AL apartments. The 14 that are available in IL, Rick and Cher have done updates and upgrades to try to get those more marketable. And they're just not, we're not getting traction on a life care contract on the 14 IL apartments. And we're not getting traction from a rental contract on those 14. So I'm hoping that by doing something different than the digital and social media, that we'll see some movement in those apartments. Larry?
So, any word for the word on the upgrade of the guest rooms?
Yes, good question.
Now, that would obviously be a marketing
Yeah.
or attraction for families, and they will tell their friends.
Yeah. So what Larry's asking is about I'll take this off again. The 3 guest rooms. So we are doing a mock-up, and we're going to review it with a few of the residents that have talked to us about those guest rooms. And we're going to renovate one of the guest rooms in that mock-up and see how much that costs and see how it's functioning. We have looked at and have done, made sure that we get the cleaning down better in the guest rooms. We're still having some glitches around that, and we want to get that corrected. But beyond investing in that one, I don't think we're going to be investing any more dollars other than that one in this year. Okay. Other topics? Any other items? Okay. If not, thank you. Thank you for being here today. Appreciate you. Hey, Bill.
Sure. I've done mergers and acquisitions for the last 40 years.
Yep.